Hi, I'm James. Let's take a look at how to use the full OpenAI ChatGPT-4 plugin from zeroqode. Just before we jump into it, if you need any help building your app or product, feel free to reach out to our team by visiting our website at zeroqode.com. We're the largest maker of plugins for Bubble, as well as the top gold tier Bubble agency. We have almost 10 years of experience and can help you build any web, mobile, or AI product, or even help automate your business. While you're there, make sure you check out zeroqode.com/plugins. This is the full list of all the plugins we make, and there's like over 700 of them. So there's something there to cover pretty much everything your app could possibly need to do. For example, there's Stripe Marketplace Express. This helps you accept credit card payments on your app. There's Mapbox Maps, and this gives all sorts of maps functionality. This one's really good for saving on Bubble's hosting costs. This is AWS File Uploader, so you can store your files on your own S3 bucket. There's Air Calendar, there's Air Chat and Messaging. There's so many more there, so definitely explore that and check that out. So let's take a look at the plugin itself. So this is the plugin page here on the zeroqode website. Now, this plugin allows you to tap into all of the OpenAI ChatGPT-4 functionality without needing to work directly with the API connector. You can just connect straight to this plugin incredibly quickly and access, well, everything we see here. So writing content, chatting, grammar correction, translations, image generation, everything you'd expect here from ChatGPT functionality. Now, there are a few things to look at on this page here. The first is the live demo button. This will open up a pre-built app made by zeroqode that shows off the full functionality of this plugin from a user's point of view. So you can use it, try it out, and see all the functionality for yourself. So if you scroll down on the page here, you can see multiple different tools and functionality sorted by category here on the left. So we can try out the text functionality here. There we go. We can see it responding. We can generate images. Let's say a tree. There we are, looking good. There's also a lot more advanced functionality here, like editing images, variations on images, summarizing, translating, grammar correction, as well as audio functionality. If we go back to the plugin page, the second button here is the demo editor. And this opens up the exact same app we were just looking at, but from the Bubble editor point of view. So we can go in and we can kind of reverse engineer this and see how it works and pull apart the app and the workflows and everything that goes into building and running this particular app, and making sure that the functionality that we need is present here before we actually need to install the plugin. On the other side here, we have the documentation link. Now, this is super important. This goes through every single bit of functionality that this plugin can do and walks you through how to install it all, including API key setup, actual properties that you need to fill out and what they all mean, all the parameters, and example workflows as well if you get to certain functionality that you might be wanting. So while you're using this app, or before you're using this plugin, have a look at this documentation to make sure that this does cover your use case and how to install it. But we'll be going through together building a simple app so that we can get you started, and that'll go into a lot more in-depth, more specific functionality depending on what you are needing for your particular app. Lastly, bottom right here, we've got our intercom button. Send us a message here for any questions you have about the plugin, about the functionality before you install. If you have any trouble installing, we're here to help, and we would love to help you out. All right, let's jump in and build something. Alrighty, we're here in the Bubble editor. The first thing we need to do is actually get this plugin into our app. So on the left-hand side here, click on the Plugins tab, and then in the top right, click on Add Plugins. And we're going to search for full OpenAI. There we go. That'll do it. Full OpenAI ChatGPT-4 by zeroqode. Now, you've got two options here to install this plugin. There's a one-off payment, or you can pay monthly. Now, the monthly payment is the most risk-free way to try out these plugins here, as you're charged on a pro rata basis. So you're only charged for the days that you have the app installed and active, the plugin installed and active in your app. So if you install it and use it for one day and decide that it's not quite what you need, you can uninstall that and only pay for that one day, which in this case would be $5 divided by 30 days in a month. So very cheap, very risk-free, and a great way to try this out before paying a larger amount. So whichever way you choose to install the plugin, install it there, and you'll then see it in your plugins list here in the app. Now, once you have it in the app, there is another thing we need to do here. We need to get our API keys from OpenAI so that our app can connect with OpenAI service and return results when we run workflows. So to do that, you'll need an account on OpenAI, and your credit balance, you'll need to add some credits to your account. So you can start, I think, with just $5 and you'll then be charged as you use those credits through your workflows. All right, so once you have the account and you have some credit in your account, click on create a new secret key here. And you can call it whatever you want to call it here. I'll call it zeroqode 2. Default project for now, sure. And then create secret key. There we go. We have a key. So you want to copy and paste that into the settings we just saw on the plugins page, just here in authorization and in authorization dev. Now, the one thing we need to add here as well is the word bearer with a capital B and a space. So B-E-A-R-E-R space, and then keep everything else the same. This is just the format that OpenAI needs for the API key. Great. Once you've done that, that's all we need to do on this end, and we can jump into building in Bubble. Now, back in the Bubble editor here, in the design tab, let's have a look at what we got. So I've built a very basic UI here for 2 workflows I'm going to look at. On your app, of course, make this, look a lot nicer than I have. But we have here a simple input field, a button, and then some text. And then a second group below with another input field, another button, and an image inside of a group. Now, using these, we're going to look at how we can use the text generation here and the image generation here, and 2 methods for storing and displaying that data. So let's have a look at some workflows. To start with, I'm going to select the button here, Submit Text Prompt, and I will add a workflow to this. Let's have a look at some of the actions that become available to us with this new plugin. So everything here with OpenAI is everything we can work with this plugin. There is a lot here. It's fantastic. We've got our basic ChatGPT, which is what we're going to be using for this first workflow. But we've got assistants and messages and threads and translations and vector embeddings and deleting files and a lot here. And I very much recommend going through the documentation for explanations and details on every single one of these, this functionality here. But for now, all we're going to do is OpenAI ChatGPT, and that will open up our properties panel here. Now, there are a few things we need to adjust in this panel here. The first is the hash. Now, if we have a look here in the documentation, we can see that the hash, if we scroll down a bit, is a field that receives a dynamic value, for example, the current time, to ensure the calls are always updated. So we can just do exactly what it says in the documentation and put the current date and time in here. We can also see what else we need to change here. The role is the user. We can see down here it would be either system, user, or assistant. And then the content is our dynamic data, the content of our input. So let's jump back and do all of that. In our hash, we're going to put current date and time. We're going to keep user here for the role. And the content, if we go back to our design tab, will be this here, input into prompt here. Input into prompt here's value. I'm not going to change anything else here, but if you want to, you can go through each of these inline documentation fields that will give you more information about what each thing changes. But for our test app here, we're just going to leave it like this. So this is going to send the input, the prompt that we type in our input field, off to OpenAI ChatGPT-4. You can see down here the model that we have, GPT-4o, and it'll return an answer. But we haven't added anywhere to display the answer yet. Or rather we have, and we haven't put it into the workflow. So this text here is where the answer is going to be displayed. Now, to do that, on the page itself here, the name of the page, I've added a custom state called OpenAI text. And the type is text. Nice and simple. And this is a temporary state that is going to hold the result of our request. And then we're going to add to our workflow to display it here. So we can see here, if we go to our workflow, we're going to set state of an element. And we want to set the state of the page. I've just called my page full OpenAI GPT-4 video. You call it whatever you like. And the state that we've already set up, we just saw it, OpenAI text. And the value of the text that's going to go in here is the result of step 1. Now, the way we do that is result of step 1, choices, first items, message content. Now, I'll show you what that means right now. If we look here in the OpenAI documentation, in the actual API docs here, and we look at the response field here. This is what will be returned with the response from our workflow connecting to the OpenAI API. And we can see here in the response area, the actual fields and hierarchy we move down. So we have the body's response, its choices, the first object, and there's only one object here, the first object's message content, and that's the actual response here. So all we're doing is mirroring these nested fields in our workflow. As we see here, the body, the choices, the first items, message, content. Great. And that's just going to be text that we are storing in that custom state. The last step we need to do is have this display in here. And I'm going to clear this so we can do it together. So we have a text field, and we want something dynamic in here. We're going to insert dynamic data, and that will be the page name, which we saw here for OpenAI GPT-4 videos. Here's the custom state, OpenAI texts. And that's it, actually. That's it. So this will be empty until there is some text stored in that custom state that we saw here. As soon as there's text stored in that custom state, that same text will be displayed right underneath our button. Let's try it out. Let's say, hello, anyone there? And we'll click the button. There we go. Hello, yes, I'm here. How can I assist you today? So clicking that button, what that did was it ran the workflow attached to our OpenAI ChatGPT plugin. We had the hash with I'll move this closer. It had the hash with the current date and time. It took our input from the input field, and then it returned something that returned something from OpenAI. And we took what it returned, the result of step one, the body, the choices, the first item's message content, and we stored this text in the state of the page itself, in the OpenAI text custom state. And then we displayed whatever was stored in that state here in this text. Cool, nice and straightforward. Let's look at something a little bit different then. Let's look at generating an image. Now it's done very, very similarly to what we just saw. So we still have our input field, we have a button, and then we have an image here. And the image is inside a group. Now let's look at the workflow that goes with that. Same thing, I'm going to select the button here, and I'm going to add a workflow. Now we're going to do a different workflow this time. We're going to find image generations here. And here are the parameters that relate to that. So same thing, we have the prompt itself, the number of images you want to generate, and then some further elements that we can change if we want to. So the prompt is going to come from our input field, which is called input image prompt. So we'll go here and we will say input image prompts value. Cool, that's our prompt. I'm not going to change anything else here, but same thing, we can open up the documentation and see what size options we have, what model we're using, if there's a style that we want to change for the image. But for now, that's all that we're going to need to change. Now, to display the image, we can save it in a custom state, just like we did with the text input, or the text prompt, but I'm going to do something different for this workflow, just to show a different way we can do this. And of course, in a production app, you would probably save the result of step one to the database, or have some other workflow that works within your app. I'm just showing some basic ways that we can do this. But what we'll do here is display data in a group / pop-up. Now, let's go back to our image element here. It's inside a group called group image. So we want to display, the element is group image. Great. And the data we want to display is the result of step one's data, first items, URL. Same thing, we're just mimicking the structure of the response from the OpenAI API docs. And the URL is the image file itself. So now, if we go back to our design tab, if we click this button, it'll take whatever text is entered here and send it off to OpenAI, and then the resulting image will come back and be displayed inside of this group here. Now, what I've done here, I've set the image that's inside this group. The image will be the parent group's image. So there's two things we've got to do here. The group that's housing the image, we need to set the type of content to be image, and that will allow this workflow to work. Now, because this is image, we can now, the image inside, set the dynamic image to be the parent group's image. Because the image that's coming back from OpenAI, we're displaying it in this group. And this group's type is image. So that means this image here will inherit the image that is defined as the parent group's image. All right, let's try this out and see how it goes. I'll hit preview. Let's say a bird in a tree and submit our image prompt. There we go. We have our bird in a tree. That looks very peaceful, doesn't it? So just to recap, clicking this button here, it ran the OpenAI image generations workflow from our plugin. The prompt was the image, the input image is prompt's value. And then the second step was to display the result of the first step in the group called group image. Now, the group called group image is just a group with the type image, and the image inside it inherits the dynamic image from the group itself where we displayed the image. Like I said, we can do the same thing. We could have displayed it in a custom state for the page. We could have saved it to our database and then pulled it from the database and shown it here. Lots of different ways to work with and save the responses here once you have them. These are just two examples. Now, as mentioned, there's a lot this plugin can do. You can be uploading files, you can be doing text-to-speech, creating transcriptions and code review, code generations. So have a look through here for all of the parameters and properties you can change for this. But the general workflow works very similar to what we just worked through here. There's just some adjustments and changes that you might make for each workflow. And that's about it for this video. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions at all about this plugin, whether that's installing, pre-install, post-install, setting it up, send us a message. We would love to help you out. Happy building.